Yeah, website investing. And the term website investing, obviously, some people might kind of read that and think, oh, you need 50K, 100K to get involved in website investing. Um, this is aimed at everyone. So it's aimed at people that want to do it themselves, people that have kind of, $100 or £100 that they want to kind of just start up a site and do it themselves, and also the people that have kind of much larger investments available to kind of get involved. Everyone has to make the same decisions along the way. So obviously, the goal is to kind of build a site or multiple sites that are earning a regular monthly income and can be sold for a profit. So whether that's kind of a profit from what you've invested into it or getting some money back from the time that you've invested, that is everyone's goal in regards to kind of building a digital asset. The choices that kind of I think everyone has to make along the way, and I'm sure that I've missed some as well. So that'll be quite interesting to explore. But kind of buy versus build. So do you go out and buy a website from somewhere like Flipper, or do you build one yourself, or use a company to build one? Age domains versus fresh domains. Kind of do it yourself in regards to the coding of the site, the content, the keyword research, or do you outsource that to someone else? Do you do link building? Um, Once it's kind of grown, how do you monetize the site? And then once it's monetized, how do you kind of continue growing it afterwards? Now, each one of those choices in itself is probably an episode that we could explore. And certainly, I know Adam and Mark did a series on the kind of buy versus build scenario. So this is kind of aimed as a high level overview rather than a deep dive into any of these subjects. So, in regards to kind of the first one, buy versus build. So I've kind of looked at the choices. I've noted down what I see as kind of the pros and cons on each. So obviously you can go to kind of a marketplace and you can buy a site that is already earning an income. Um, the obvious pro with that is it's already earning an income. So you're going to get instant cash flow back from that site. It's already got traffic. It's already hopefully an established site. Um, the kind of cons that I can see in regards to buying a site, the downsides are there's a whole load of kind of diligence needed on not only the domain, you need to look at where the traffic's coming from, how reliable is that traffic, has it got a long history, is the traffic being generated by someone kind of doing activity, so is it coming from social media accounts, and also the financials of the site as well. So, if it's from an affiliate network, what is the agreement in place? Can you take that agreement over? If it's from display ads, is that a reliable kind of income going forward? Is it seasonal? There's a whole load of questions that you kind of need to answer before being comfortable around buying a site. And if you do miss any kind of red flags, whether that be kind of bad content or someone's used kind of black hat techniques to kind of grow the site, then you're opening yourselves up to kind of future issues. And it could be that Google kind of penalizes you down the road. It could be that you kind of lose traffic. And certainly, I know that we've heard some horror stories of people that have kind of bought sites and then come to us a few months later saying, the traffic disappeared. And why is this? And then you kind of look into it a little bit deeper, and often, the traffic's being generated through the person doing work, and there's been a little kind of scam or misdirection going on. In regards to kind of building it from scratch, the pros, the good sides, are that you're not going to come across any hidden issues on the site. So you can literally build it from the ground up. You can be confident around everything that's going into the site. You can be confident around the quality of the content that's going into the site. Once you get the site up and it's earning an income, there's a larger return on investment available to you. So obviously, it's less money to build the site from scratch than it is to go and buy an already monetized site. And you also kind of control the commercial setup of that site. So you get to kind of choose your display ad network. You get to put in place your own affiliate networks, choose which affiliate networks to use. So you have kind of full control over what direction the site goes in. Downsides, obviously, it's kind of a longer investment process, so you're not going to get the money back in month one. There can be kind of a lack of cash flow up front. So even if you use an age domain, it can take several months for kind of that site to be earning and delivering an income. And so, yeah, it kind of takes longer as a process to get to the point where it's an established site. Any kind of pros and cons that I've missed there, guys, that you can think of? Or...
No, I don't think so.
No? Cool. All right, I'm pleased with that. Okay, so the next kind of decision is around whether you build a site on an age domain or a fresh domain. And if anyone's kind of watching that's kind of new to the journey, by fresh domain, we mean kind of a domain that has never been used before, so you go out and register it today. By an age domain, it's a domain that's had a website on there in the past. So pros around kind of using a fresh domain is you've got kind of freedom over the domain name. So you can go and register your own domain name, you can choose your own niche. You're not guided or restricted by anything at all. You've got a complete fresh start. So if you've got kind of a certain brand or company name in mind, or it's a really specific niche that you know is going to do really well, you can go and register that domain. Downsides are it's kind of longer to rank in Google. You can go through kind of a Google sandbox process. You've obviously got no backlinks or domain authority with that site. And to get to the same level of backlinks, it can cost a hell of a lot more than if you just buy an age domain in the first place. And I've got kind of a example of that on the next slide. In regards to kind of pros of an age domain, speed of growth. It's a really cost-effective way of getting kind of a high domain authority. Again, kind of faster return on investment because you get that kind of faster speed of growth. Downsides, you need to go through kind of that diligence process on the domain. So you need to kind of look through the history, look through the backlinks. Lois and Ellen do this kind of week in, week out. And I think we go through, I don't know how many checks it is per domain, but it's a really thorough process. And if there's any kind of red flags at all, then we wouldn't touch it. We don't bid on it. So yeah, there is kind of a lot to know about making sure that you're building on that kind of clean age domain.
Yeah, there are some risks associated with age domains as well, because even if you miss something, just a tiny little thing, it can kind of come back to bite you. So the due diligence process has got to be really, you've got to be really, really careful. Even sometimes, even if you check everything checks out, everything's fine, you start publishing content, and for some reason, just Google doesn't index the site, doesn't index anything, and then you're like, well, that's a bit unfortunate. So I guess that's another con, but I think there are a load more pros compared to fresh domains. Using age domains, I think much more time. You're saving much more time. Ultimately, you're starting off with an established authority. You can start monetizing fairly quickly compared to fresh domains. Content starts jumping into the SERPs very quickly, well, relatively quickly. So, but yeah, they both have their pros and cons. It's kind of hard to really distinguish which one is actually better, but I guess sometimes it's personal choice as well. I guess more experienced people would rather start with an age domain, and less experienced people feel more comfortable starting off with a fresh domain, so they have a full control of what's happened, and it's just much easier. But ultimately, they both have their pros and cons.
I think a lot of it as well.
On the... Sorry, Jordan.
I was just going to say, I think a lot of it as well does come down to how particular you are about niche selection. So if you've got a really particular niche that you know that's absolutely what you want to do, whether it's a passion project or whatever it may be, then you might spend ages searching for the perfect age domain in that space. And in the time that it takes, you might be waiting 6 months, 12 months even before you find a domain in the niche that you want. And in that time, you could have registered a fresh domain and done some growth there, and then potentially redirected a domain in later when you find one. And so it is kind of weighing up how quickly you want the project to start, I guess, firstly, but also within your niche, how regularly you think it's going to be quite easy to find domains or not. So a lot of it does come down to that kind of selection of the niche.
Yeah, I think it's also down to what the person's looking to build the site for. If they just after, like you say, like a general niche site, they're not too worried. They have it as a asset or an investment. Then an age domain is kind of a great place to go. If you've got a certain kind of company in mind that you want to build alongside the niche site, then you're unlikely to find the perfect age domain with that name. So kind of a fresh domain is the way to go. So I think there's situations to use both. But yeah, I think as everyone said, if you want that additional speed, then age domains definitely the preferred option.